That's what I teach people is make your client experience your biggest growth strategy. Because if you bring that customer or client in, give them a high touch, white glove service, they're going to become your raving fan and they're going to tell everybody else about it, right? So those people are going to want to work with you. And in turn, if you have a contract that is auto-renewed every year, it's not even going to be a question, right? They're just going to automatically renew and continue working with you. And if it's not an auto-renew contract, they might say, hey, can you help me with this? Or, hey, I know we finished our partnership a year ago, but you did so much in my business then. Can we revisit and see what you can do now?
Welcome to Speakers and Stages, the series that goes beyond the mic and behind the scenes of powerful events. I'm your host, Lena Castle, event strategist and speaker experience expert. Yes, we're going to sit down and talk with event industry experts from backstage chaos to center stage clarity. This is where the strategy meets the spotlight. Let's get into it.
Awesome.
Welcome back, everyone, to Speakers and Stages. I'm so excited about today's guest because honestly, the moment she said the words client journey, I knew she was my people. And she is a client experience strategist with over 20 years of experience and the founder of Client Journey Advisors. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Erica Wood.
Woo! Awesome. Thank you, Lena. I'm so excited to be here and just excited to have some great conversation.
Your background is just so very fascinating. You started in pediatric healthcare and then pivoted into the virtual assistant staffing space. And I'm like, how did that connect for you? How do you go from one thing completely different into another? Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. It seems like it's a far stretch, right? Pediatric healthcare to customer service, client relations, the virtual assistant staffing industry. But I've always been on the customer care side of things, even working in healthcare. I started out my career helping patients and families cope with hospitalization and navigate their journey through the healthcare system. And the entire time I was in pediatric healthcare, I shifted a couple times into different roles, but I've always focused on helping people navigate their journey side when I worked in healthcare. And the customers of the hospital are patients and families, right? So that just translates over to the customer service, client experience side of things. And actually, the last role that I sat in was in a leadership position within patient and family experience, which is customer service of the hospital. And then I shifted from pediatric healthcare into the virtual assistant staffing world because unfortunately I was laid off in 2019. Again, I was in that middle management role, hospital restructured, and they're like, we no longer need this position, even though I'd been with the hospital for almost 17 years and thought I was going to retire there. God said, no, I have a different plan for you. So I shifted. And at the time, my late husband and I wanted to sell our house, live in our RV, and just travel the States. So I started looking for jobs that I could do from anywhere. And I just kind of stumbled into the virtual assistant staffing industry. There is a company here in the Atlanta area that they've always been remote, even pre-pandemic. And my skills that I learned working with patients and families made it a really easy transition into account management. I had that empathy. I had the skills to walk somebody through their journey, even though it was no longer in healthcare, it was now in the virtual assistant staffing industry. I was able to help those clients understand how to work with a virtual assistant, how to coach them through that process. So I feel like that just easily translated over and has helped me continue growing my career from there and still focusing on helping people because that's one of the things I absolutely love to do is help people, especially help them navigate whatever journey they're on at that time. So that's where
Yeah.
Client Journey Advisors, a little bit of that name comes from.
Now, when you say client journey, Like in my
Mhm.
mind, you and I had a conversation. What does that exactly mean when you say client journey?
So when I say client journey, I mean from the very first touch point of that person interacting with your marketing all the way through the life cycle and even after they're possibly no longer your client.
Yeah.
That that experience that you want that person to have
Mhm.
interacting with your brand and your people, that's the client journey. And it doesn't start just when the client signs the contract. It
Mm.
starts from the very beginning when they even start interacting with whatever marketing you're putting out there, whether it's social media or your website. What is that journey you want to take that person on and provide for them while they're interacting with you and your brand and your business?
Now, why is it important to think about that? Because you know what? I'll say it this way. What happens if they're posting amazing content and the client journey experience is not implemented? It's not there. What happens?
That client's going to eventually get upset and leave, to put it simply. But if you're promising the world to that client and your teams aren't communicating, and once that client signs the contract and the client
Mm.
relations team isn't providing what marketing and sales is putting out there and selling,
Yeah.
even under a contract, the client is going to walk away. They're either going to do one or two things. They're going to make a really big stink to get out of their contract early,
Oh, wow.
or they're going to quietly just fade away. And then when it comes to renewal time, they're not going to renew their contract, which is what most people do. I heard a statistic one time of only 1 in 25 clients actually complain. The rest will just walk away. That's
Oh my
staggering.
God. Oh my
Yes,
gosh. The one person that writes that review, like, you know what, this is
exactly.
terrible. Oh my
Exactly.
goodness. So when people are thinking about, okay, what is the first thing I need to be thinking about when I'm putting together a client journey or an experience? Is there something I need to consider or questions I should
Hmm.
be asking myself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first question you should ask yourself is, if I were using me and using my services and my brand, what experience would I want to go through? So that would be the first question I would ask myself of, if I were using this service, what experience would I want to have? And then recreate that for your clients and your customers. And
Mm.
then the second question I would ask myself is, especially if you have a little bit of a bigger team, is everybody communicating and working together to weave client success throughout the whole process and the whole company? Or are your teams in silos? A lot of times, what happens is as you grow,
Okay.
especially if you have a small team at the beginning, everybody's communicating, everybody's working really well together. But as you grow and you add on, if you don't have the right system set in place, then your team stop communicating and they start working in silos. I'll give you an example. The last company I worked for, I was the very first W-2 employee. They brought me on to help them build the business from the ground up. And as we grew, I communicated really well with the client relations team, obviously, because I was building that out, and the virtual assistant staffing side of things, because I was helping build
Mm.
that out. But they brought on a marketing manager, and then they brought on a couple of salespeople. And the marketing manager and the CEO were having meetings about content.
Oh
Then
my
the
God.
sales and the CEO were having meetings. And then the CEO and I were having meetings, but it wasn't being com- relayed to everyone. So some
Mm.
marketing stuff came out that set really unrealistic expectations. And it was
Uh,
because I wasn't included in the meetings with the marketing person to say, hey, we need to make sure this lines up with what we can actually provide.
wow.
So everybody started to silo off instead of working as one big cohesive team. Does that make
How do you,
sense?
yes, but how do you get people to be on the same page? Is it that we just need to all be in the same meetings and talk about everything? Or
Yeah,
is it, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's strategic meetings that do need to have. I'm the type of person that I don't want to have a meeting just to have a meeting because there it could be relayed through an email. I'm talking about strategic leadership team meetings so that everybody is on the same page, everybody is talking the same language, and teams aren't starting to work in silos. So we were implementing ESO, which is I don't know if your community is familiar with ESO, but it's a operating system. And it fails me right now what ESO actually stands for.
But if it comes to you, that's perfectly
Yes,
fine.
but there's a book out there called Traction, and it's around the ESO operating system. But it's basically how you set up the structure of your business to run. So I would suggest, even if you're a small team of one, starting to implement some of those systems or getting things mapped out before you start bringing on a big team, right? So that everybody flows and works together.
I love this. And okay, there's so many things like that are going on for me right now. So, a couple of things that you said, there's the last thing that I definitely want to get to, which is mapping. Like, how can someone begin mapping?
Mhm.
But before that, about the silos and having strategic meetings. Now, does it make sense that the teams who are executing on certain things, they get together and then in this broader meeting, giving updates? It's not like we have to actually do the brainstorming in that meeting. That's what I get
Mm-hmm.
frustrated with in some meetings is that we're doing all the work right now when the work could be done outside and all we're doing is doing updates and like, do you
Yes.
need approval?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the foundations of the ESO operating system is you have meetings with your individual teams basically on a weekly basis, and you're doing the work, right? And then in strategic leadership meetings, you might have those like every other week or every 2 weeks, and it's just basically a update of coming from marketing and sales and client experience and product management, whatever that team is, and you're basically giving an overview of here's what's going on, here's what we're working on. Is there anything that overlaps? Do we need to continue discussing this? Do we need to tweak that? That's what happens in those higher up strategic meetings. But you really definitely want to have meetings like managers to your frontline people, because the frontline people are going to be the ones that have all of the information of what needs to happen with especially on the client relation side of things, right? They're
Yeah.
going to have all of the stuff that's going on with the clients. They're going to have that feedback. They're going to have the information of, hey, this client's not happy about this, or we need to tweak that, or whatever it might be. But that does need to trickle up to the top of the food chain, so to speak.
Yeah, because I think about if somebody from the marketing team is coming in and they're seeing trends or numbers that could be useful to the other team. I was
Mhm.
watching a commercial how all of these different teams, they're doing different things, but their journeys or their part is so critical to the broader
Mhm.
conversation so
Mhm.
that everyone can be informed and making decisions. And it's not,
Right.
oh yeah, let's just go in this direction. How is marketing, what's going on in that space? How are
Mhm.
sales going? And I think sometimes we just want to go fast and then throw it against the wall and see what happens.
Yes, and that is not a fun way to live if you're on the front lines or you're working in, especially if you're working in a client-facing role, that makes their job really difficult.
Mm.
And coming from two different companies that were startups, that the first VA agency I worked for always used to say, "Oh, we're building the plane as we fly it." That's really frustrating. So take the time to set up your processes right from the beginning. And I know there are some people that thrive in a startup world and they love that and they love the building and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. Just think about all of your team players, especially your frontline players who are working directly with your customers or your clients, because you want to make sure, number one, that they have the emotional intelligence to
Mm.
navigate any situation with a client. So definitely high EQ for sure, but also that they have that empathy so that it's not transactional. I think a lot of times people in the account management roles, they default to transactional, which is terrible on your client experience. Let me tell you.
Yes.
I've been there, I've navigated it on both sides as a client account manager myself and as a leadership person helping other account managers learn how to let's switch out of the tactical. Yes, you have to be tactical in certain aspects,
Yeah.
but clients don't respond well to being transactions. Nobody responds well to that. So just trying to make sure that your team has that ability to do that.
Now, going back to the mapping, I like to go old school and let's just start on post-it notes, like what happens when, where. Oh, this needs to probably go here. And then just put it as visual and see it, and then put it into, and then I get into like systems, and then I put it into implementation of, okay, now we can automate some of
Mhm.
this and let's test it. But when you say mapping, what does that look like for you?
Exactly the same. Oh, there's a couple of tools that I like. One is Miro or Miro. I don't know exactly. I hear it pronounced different ways. That and then Canva. Canva also has a great client, like templates for client journey maps. But same thing, like in the last company worked for when we were building out certain operations, we would map it out on Miro first, and which is the satisfaction of the little sticky notes. You just don't have them all over a wall like you used to. Everything's virtual now, and working for virtual companies, you got to play with that. Now, my former CEO, he loved mapping out that stuff. So he had a whiteboard in his office and he used to make us watch him while, even though we couldn't read it because it was virtual, he had to map it out on his whiteboard, which is totally fine. Choose what works best for you, right? That worked best for him. And then he would turn around and have his assistant put it all in a Miro board where we could all see it. But just same thing, mapping out each one of the steps and then like to help create the automations in our CRM, we would map out like if this, then this. If that, then that. What would
Uh,
happen? What would be the steps? If the client didn't show up for their checking call, what would be the next step? If they did show up, what was the next step? And just mapping it all out using something like that. And then you can pop it into AI and it
yeah.
will generate these beautiful documented SOPs for you, which is amazing.
Ooh. Oh, and that's all the tasks within each box and things that also need to
Yes.
happen. I think that's where people may lose it a little bit. It's like, yeah, you have these post-it notes, but there's
Hmm.
tasks that are there. There's these nuances that sometimes we may
Hmm.
not even think about until we're actually doing it. But
Yeah.
it's all like trial and error and okay, we
Ex-
need to tweak this and try to figure that part
hmm.
out. Yeah.
Yep. But if you've built the foundation, then the tweaks and the pivots are going to be much easier and they're going to come because as you grow, you're going to have to tweak and pivot. The CEO cannot be the sales manager for the forever. The CEO needs to be elevated. So when it first starting out, the CEO was our sales manager and he was the one on all the sales calls. But as we grew, we had to pivot and hire people and that's how teams grow. But mapping out those tasks, it's it helps if somebody vacates that position, then you have a map of what that person did and you can easily train and recreate it for somebody else.
Oh, wow. I think that's the beauty of it. It's
Mm.
the rinse and repeat. Like once
Yeah.
you got it and everybody knows it and it's a well-oiled machine, the other side of that, like if we can think to the end product, the end user, the end
Hmm.
result, it's okay, this is now our baby. This is it. We finally got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. It's like all the headaches and the tweaking and the oh gosh, that didn't work, but then finally getting to
Hmm.
a place where you're like okay, this is their process. They're feeling good. We're
Hmm.
surveying them. They confirmed that this was a great process. But is there anything else, like from a client journey perspective, that those who just haven't even thought about it, that are like, what do I need to do, like in this moment? Like, at least
Hmm.
maybe there's one step that I could be doing, like when I first have that initial touch point.
Definitely initial touch points as far as like your marketing and your sales and stuff. Obviously, you need your funnels, you need your lead gen, all of that that captures all of that. I am not super well versed in that stuff. So that is something that I'm learning and it's a new skill I'm learning. But as far as once the client signs the dotted line, the first thing you need is an automated welcome email. And yes, it can be automated and you can still make it feel personal to that client.
Mm.
And let me tell you how to do that. So, whatever CRM you're using, or even if you're not using a CRM and you're just scheduling things to go out from your email, create a template that has a little bit of next step information in it, a welcome video. That
Mm.
is one thing that I started implementing when I first started working at my first VA agency. When I discovered Loom, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. Number one, I hate typing out really long emails. Number two, I hate
Yeah.
reading really long emails, even
Yeah.
more than typing out really long emails. So Loom became my best friend. And I just started making a welcome video saying, hey, my name's Erica. I'm going to be your client success manager. Here's next steps. This is exactly what I need you to do not bypass this step. So they knew exactly what to do. The video made it personal to them, but then
Right.
you can make that template and drop in a customized video where you're saying the client's name or just making a general video. It's still going to feel customized to them because they're seeing your face for the first time, right? And that little step alone makes a huge impression on a brand new client, right? It makes them think, oh, wow, this person's on top of it. They know I'm coming. They're ready for me. They've told me how to prepare for our next call, all that kind of stuff. And it can be automated that as soon as the client signs the contract, your CRM can shoot that email out to them within a couple of minutes.
Yes.
That's an easy implementation. And it starts the tone of the relationship of, hey, I got you. You don't have anything to worry about.
Mm.
We're going to hold your hand the whole time. We're going to lay this out for you. And it's that easy. It's not rocket
Mm.
science. I tell people all the
Yeah.
time, client experience is not rocket science. Treat somebody how you would want to be treated in any customer situation, and they're going to become loyal fans.
Oh, and advocates, and they're like, "Hey, you need to join this. You should." Oh, it was so
Yes.
amazing. Like a raving fan. That's so beautiful. And you also said something that I'm like, "Oh, that's a good point." Now, people that are doing it very well, are there certain brands or companies or organizations that you're like, they get it, they're doing it well, like that's where we should aspire? Anyone that you can think of?
Yes. So, one of the brands that I can think of right now off the top of my head is Stitch Fix. Have you ever used Stitch Fix?
I got the box over here for my son. Yeah. Yep.
Their customer service, there's been a couple of times that I had issues and they're like super responsive, they're on it. But I feel like now it's been a while since I signed up. It's been actually many years, so it may
Yeah.
have changed a little bit. But when I first signed up for Stitch Fix, I felt like it was very intentional, right? They really wanted to get to know me as a person so that they could style me better, right? Which makes sense in a product like that, right? Like a service like that. They're wanting to get to know you so they know your style. And then there was a couple of times that did have a couple little issues, had to actually reach out to their clients experience or customer service or whatever, and they were absolutely amazing. Hands down, I would tell anybody about Stitch Fix. I even
Yes.
had a friend who she ended up having a child that was born with special needs. And at the time, she was part of Stitch Fix, and she was like, I need to cancel my service, whatever. And so they were like, just asking her questions of why. And she basically explained she had just had a baby that has special needs, and they need to focus their attention and time and money and all that. They sent her a special welcome gift for the baby, and then sent her a box and said, we will pause your service. Come back whenever you're ready. Like,
Wow.
that's amazing, right?
Yeah, people that get it. And there's
Hmm.
certain, even stores, like Nordstrom is still one of those stores that no questions asked if you bring something back. But there's just certain brands like they get it, like from the time
Yep.
that you've signed up. I think it's, I won't say the brand. I get the emails and because my husband and I shop at this particular clothing store, and every email that I'm getting is all men's clothes. I'm like, how do they not know that I'm the wife? I don't know
Right.
how I'm getting the 60% off of these button-up shirts and they're all male shirts. And I'm like, how do they miss that? Oh my
Unless they're
God.
thinking the wife is the one doing the shopping anyway.
Oh gosh. But I'm like, if your email is connected to the account you've purchased,
Right.
and it's like, how do they think? Because I get both. I get men's and I get women's. And then it's like a mixture, or even with kids, it's like, why am I getting like I do have three kiddos, but like where in our buying process would you even know that
Yeah.
we have children? So it's just very interesting how some people just
Hmm.
send emails, and to your
Oh,
point,
yeah.
not getting to know the person, how they are
Hmm.
specifically structured as a family, or there's women that are trying to have children. So certain things could be, you just never know. Simple
Mm.
email that could be a trigger or a frustration, or I
Yeah,
love that brand,
absolutely.
but this is nothing I would buy. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll speak to the other side of that of only using emails to communicate with your clients is terrible. And I will give you an example. I, when I first started my business, I signed up for services to help me set up the LLC, and it came through a recommendation in a business coaching program that I was at the time. Needless to say, the services ended up being terrible. Was very unsatisfied, and I had paid a lot of money for these services. And so I called and was like, I want to cancel and I want my money back. Like, this has been the worst experience. And in good conscience, being that I sit in the client experience space, I not give you this feedback. Like,
Yes.
and I know that I could probably help you guys, but honestly, you're probably not the type of client that I want because you're not going to listen to me. I got told, okay, ma'am, one of the directors needs to speak with you before we can cancel and or issue a refund. And I was like, okay. So I was speaking to the director of this particular service, and number one, he came into the call very defensive, which is not a good posture at all. Like,
Yeah.
not a good posture. You need to pause and listen to the person. Like, that's customer service one on one, dude.
Yeah. Yes.
Number two, I got told several times that's not our job. And then number three, he says, we've sent you emails. And my response is, do you know how many emails I get a day? Seriously, dude. Like, your client experience person told me they were going to be there to hold my hand the entire way, which has not been the case. And you tell me we sent you emails. Ah, so frustrating. So frustrating.
And it's so interesting. I really think that there could be a little black book anonymously written of all the things. Like the first half is like everything that went wrong, and then the second half of the book is like all of the like amazing things. I was on a Delta airline flight, lost my glasses. This is years ago, and I still have the letter upstairs. Lost my glasses, didn't know where they were, but I had a bonding moment with the flight attendant, so sweet, and she mailed them to me. I don't even know
Wow.
how she got my address, mailed them to me with a note and said, "Thank you so much for flying with us. I knew that you were sitting in this particular seat. I was able to get your glasses for you and send them in the mail." And it's like things like that will never leave my, and I wish I could fly more with Delta with that experience, but because of where we fly, it's like we don't get a chance, but it's one of those experiences that people become loyal. I'm on board. I am here.
And
What else can I buy?
exactly, because you see the value. And when people see the value in your business, it's never going to be about price, right? They're not going to care. If you're bringing them significant value and you're showing them significant value, they're never going to complain about the price. because we all are like that, right? I'm going to pay a little more. Delta is one of the more expensive airlines out there, but I
Yeah.
always fly Delta. Number one, I'm in Atlanta and it's our hub, so it is cheaper typically for me to fly Delta. But Delta also, if you compare, it is one of the more expensive airlines, but I'm going to be taken care of anytime I fly Delta. So
I
it's a
love
no-brainer, right?
people who get it. And I think that client journey, a lot of us may not think about it in the way that we're talking about it. It's like I'm getting clients, I'm signing them up for my thing. They got what they paid for, or they're going through the coaching calls or whatever that
Mm.
could be. And then it's like offboarding. Okay, next. What do I? And it's like we're
Yep.
always looking for the next thing versus nurturing what we
Yeah.
already
Hmm.
have right here.
Exactly. And that's what I try to teach people is make your client experience your biggest growth strategy. Because if you bring that customer or client in, give them a high touch white glove service, they're gonna become your raving fan and they're gonna tell everybody else about it, right? So those people are gonna want to work with you. And in turn, if you have a contract that is auto renewed every year, it's not even going to be a question, right? They're just going
Yeah.
to automatically renew and continue working with you. And if it's not an auto renew contract, they might say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" Or, "Hey, I know we finished our partnership a year ago, but you did so much in my business then. Can we revisit and see what you can do now?" Right? They're gonna
Yeah.
come back. And that includes having a good offboarding process, which I'm
Yes.
glad you brought that up because not every client's going to stay with you forever. But you want to leave that person with the feeling that, wow, they really took care of me. They really understood where I was coming from. And even though I'm
Mm.
not working with them anymore, I'm going to send people to them. Or it's been a couple of years. Maybe they can help me again with XYZ and they're going to come back to you.
Yes. And I think the other thing you brought up a good point, referrals.
Hmm.
Sometimes we as business owners miss the mark on you had a great experience. Is there anyone else? Sometimes we think we're bothering people, but when people had such a great experience and they're like, oh, yes, let me think about who may benefit from this service. I had
Hmm.
such an amazing experience. Let me see who's in my network that I think sometimes we miss the mark on. Other
Yeah.
people may be interested going through that client journey as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, how can people work with you, Erica? If someone is, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language, I need to tighten up on my
Yeah.
client journey experience. How do people take next steps or
Hmm.
who's your ideal person that you would coming to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, ideal person is someone who owns maybe a service-based business that's in growth stage. So, you already have a client base. You may already have a little bit of a structured client experience. There's gaps. There's things that you could fix, and you want to scale. But as soon as you start growing, those gaps are going to get bigger, right? Things are going to start falling through the cracks. So having me come in and help you audit that and figure out where those cracks are and build out that amazing strategy and rolling it out to your team so that you can grow and have that foundation and feel stable in that growth. That's who I'm looking for. Now, my ultimate or my experience the last few years obviously has been in the virtual assistant staffing industry. I also have a lot of medical experience. So I feel those are two industries that I can really help. But if you're a service-based business and you're providing any type of service to a client and you want to create a human-centered journey, I can help you with that. And I have packages for like the solopreneur who's just getting started, all the way up to you're a business that's sitting between 500,000 and a million and you're wanting to grow. So I'm happy to come in, take a look at your journey, and take a look at your client experience and help you figure out what next steps are.
I love this. And Erica, you have
Yeah.
truly given our audience so much to think about and act on. So we have to like really act on these things. And you
Hmm.
don't just talk about client experience, like you live it, you breathe it, and it shows. And for everyone
Hmm.
watching, if you're running a service-based business and your client delivery feels chaotic or inconsistent, Erica is your person where you can find people who you can connect with you genuinely. And I just love this conversation. So I really just
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your experience. And I'm just ready for the next part two conversation because we got to do it
Yeah,
again.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today, Lena. I've really enjoyed it. And you're right. I could talk about client experience all day long, every day. I get really excited about it. And I do want to throw a little plug out there. I
Yeah.
am building a course series, so stay tuned. I've already got one workbook released, and it's called the Renewal Confidence Workbook. So if you are somebody that struggles with like renewal conversations, like I used to, like that I used to dread them, like I would not have a renewal conversation because I was afraid it would open a whole can of worms. And that's the worst thing you could do. So the workbook helps you walk through real live accounts and score where they sit and helps you figure out how to have a renewal conversation with that client confidently.
Based on that score.
Yeah, based on the score and how to like tweak things so that you have time because you want to do this months before the renewal, right? You don't want to wait till the last minute when the contract's coming up for renewal. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself time and options to work through things with the client that might come up.
I love that. You guys, as soon as that course drops, please let me know so I can make sure my audience has their hands on it. I think that's going to be a valuable tool and resource that they
Yeah.
could actually use. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's already dropped. I can provide the link to you, Lena, that you can put in your info where they can get the course. And it is an introductory price right now, so scoop it up because the first 30 people that buy will get the introductory price and then it's going to bump up from there. So make sure you scoop it up.
I love it. Thank you so much, Erica. We're going to do this again very
Yeah,
soon.
absolutely. Thank you, Lena.